Whoa, what is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. As a deal went down for the New York Giants today that we were all expecting. I'll probably do another video on this tomorrow when the details come out, or maybe the day after that, whenever the full details come out in terms of the contract breakdown. As of now, we just know the basic figures, and I'll get into it in this video, but I'll talk more and more about why I like this deal, why it's forward thinking, why I knew this deal was always going to get done this offseason. It was pretty obvious, even though the New York Giants extended Dexter Lawrence on the fifth-year option. I think we all knew at the end of the season, coming off the year in which Dexter Lawrence had, which was an incredible year, he was going to demand a contract extension, which is why he was holding out leading into voluntary minicamp. And I think it's great that Joe Schoen was able to get this deal done before actual training camp starts. You want no disruptions. You also heard today on Good Morning Football that Joe Schoen was in contact with Saquon Barkley. We've now heard that twice over the last week. He said that he spoke to his representatives about a week ago and that he intends to keep talking to them. It seems like they touch base, and I still maintain that I think a deal will get done with Saquon Barkley in the $20 to $25 million guaranteed range. In terms of the length of the deal, 3 years, 4 years, it's semantics. It comes down to guaranteed money. I think they're going to get a deal done close to what would be a projected two franchise tags. Similar to the deal with Daniel Jones, it was a projected two franchise tags and a little cherry on top. Maybe they'll get something similar done with Saquon Barkley as they remain on the same timeline. That remains to be seen. But what we saw today was the New York Giants were able to sign one of their integral pieces, one of the future cornerstone pieces of this football team, still only at the ripe young age of 25. I know that because he got the same birthday as me. So entering next year, he's going to be 25. He won't hit 26 until November 12th. I know that, like I said, because we have the same birthday. Love Sexy Dexy. Excited to see that he's back with this football team. And the cherry on top, this deal, much like the other two big D tackle signings with Deron Payne and Simmons that we'll get to in a second, does not kick in until 2024, which is even better. That's why I like this deal even more, because this does not kick in until the cap accelerates to about $250 million. That's where this deal starts. And I thought we were going to have to pay a little bit more. I'm not going to say I thought we were going to have to pay a lot more, but I thought it'd be $94 million, maybe $98 million. The fact that we got him for 4 years, $90 million, I think that's about as cheap as you could have possibly expected when you saw what some of these other D tackles were signing for. Let's put it into context before we get into all the figures. Leonard Williams, 2 years ago, when the salary cap was $182 million, and this was his market rate, when the salary cap was $182 million because of the pandemic. Right now it's 225, and this deal does not kick in until it hits 250. Signed a deal for 3 years, $63 million, $21 million a year at $45 million guaranteed. And he was coming off a very good year, 11 sack season. I get it. And he was at the top of the market at his position. And at the time, that was at least close to what the market rate would be. Dexter Lawrence, coming off an all-pro year. I mean, dude, the guy had a 92 PFF grade. According to them, he had 9 sacks. According to Pro Football Reference, he had 7.5. Regardless, we all saw how much of a disruptor he was. He had a 92 PFF grade. He was an all-pro, constantly getting pressures. He was a monster. And now he hits his market right around where he should be. Jeffrey Simmons, Deron Payne, Dexter Lawrence, all around the same age. Simmons, I think, is also 25. I think he came in the same year as Dexter Lawrence. Deron Payne got the same amount of money as Dexter Lawrence. All their guaranteed figures are roughly the same. I think it's between like $55 and $60 million each. This is the overall deal. Adam Schefter reported the Giants all-pro defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence reached an agreement today on a 4-year, $90 million extension, including $60 million guaranteed per sources. The deal makes Lawrence the third highest paid defensive tackle in football. And like I said, that market's only going to go up. But that deal is signed off of starting on next year's salary cap, at least according to Spot Track right now. He's still under contract. And if you look at the other two D tackle contracts that were signed, that was the way in which it worked. The contract did not kick in until 2024. So that's what I expect here for Dexter Lawrence, meaning that if Dexter Lawrence were to sign that contract next year, he'd probably be worth 25 or 26 million, which is why I always like when you have cornerstone pieces to lock them in, tie them in as quickly as you possibly can, especially when they're really young like Dexter Lawrence. This contract will start to kick in at his age 26. He'll see it through to the age of 29. Well, he's still in his prime. We can't predict what he's going to do as a player in terms of stats, if he's going to be able to remain healthy, whatever. But so far, throughout the course of his career, he's been dependable. He's stayed on the field. He's been smart, tough, dependable, as Joe Schoen always likes to say. And he's getting increasingly better. And I remember when Joe Schoen took this job, one of the first players he complimented was Dexter Lawrence. I think he fits exactly what Wink's looking to do. Wink and the coaching staff said, if you don't make a Pro Bowl at the end of the year, I didn't do my job. They saw the talent in this kid the second they took this job, and they were able to get the most out of it. And suddenly, that 2019 draft don't look so bad. Obviously, Daniel Jones signed a big extension at the quarterback position, and now Dexter Lawrence signs a massive deal as he is one of the best D tackles in football. He was an All-Pro for a reason, and he was a guy that we certainly needed to bring back. And you look at the job that Joe Schoen has done this offseason. He brought back Dexter Lawrence on a forward-thinking contract for, at worst, market value. He brought back Daniel Jones for what I felt was his market value on a deal that was pretty responsible when you really look into the specifics. He was able to bring in a young linebacker in Bobby Okereke for $10 million a year, the same price that we paid for Blake Martinez 2 years ago on a lower salary cap. And he's 25. He's ascending. Really excited about him. He was able to trade for Darren Waller for only a third-round pick. He was able to get 3 players in this year's draft that many felt, at least at some point in time, were worthy of the 25th overall selection. Joe Schoen has done a fantastic job, and he's continues to be forward-thinking. I love this deal for Dexter Lawrence. They're going to be able to space out this money. I can't wait to see, how this deal is structured. But when you're talking about a deal that, that is of this much monetary value, you could always move money around as it goes along, how they see fit. They needed to bring this young pass rusher back. I can't imagine anybody being upset with this extension. It's much like the Andrew Thomas signing that we all know is coming. Of course, the Giants, I think like 3 days ago, at the deadline, and maybe it was yesterday, at the deadline, signed Andrew Thomas to the 5th-year deal, and I expect it to be something very similar. I expect the New York Giants to let Andrew Thomas play out his 4th year, much like Dexter Lawrence, and then before he hits the 5th year, they will give him that extension, much like they did with Dexter Lawrence, provided that Andrew Thomas stays healthy and continues to play at a high level, which there's no reason to think he won't be able to do entering his 4th season with the New York Giants. I think this year he's going $14 million. Next year, rather. Currently, he's going $14 million against the cap. The other thing that this does, I'm sure that they're going to structure this in a way where it may free up some money on this year's cap. How much, we don't know. We got to wait till all the figures come out tomorrow or the day after. But this should help pay for the draft. We were right around even before this deal. Say this frees up $5 or $6 million. Say they're able to get the Saquon extension done. Frees up $5 or $6 million. Now you're talking $10, $12 million. I think from what I read, the salary cap hit for this year's draft class is right around $7 million. So that'll give you about $5, $6 million to make another small move or two if you want to leading into the season, or keep the money for in-season moves as you see fit. Love what they've done. They have not destroyed future cap space, as we'll go over in future videos, and they've been able to retain their young, emerging core players long-term. Joe Schoen's done a marvelous job in keeping the in-house guys together as the New York Giants continue to build up this football team. We all knew it was coming. We all knew it was going to be around this price, but I think they got him for about as cheap as you could have hoped for coming off the year he was. A lot of people say, oh, they overpaid, or, oh, that's not that good of a deal. I think it is when you factor everything in. At the end of the day, all pros in their prime, when they hit the open market, they're usually going to set the market. And that's exactly what Dexter Lawrence did. I mean, you're not going to hit Aaron Donald money, but he reached near the top. But it doesn't kick until next year. Love the deal for big, sexy Dex. I mean, my God, look at what Dalvin Tomlinson got this year. And I love Dalvin, but he's a run stuffer. He doesn't command, the contract of a guy like Dexter Lawrence would, especially being that Dalvin Tomlinson's approaching 30. He's 5 years older. He's still got $15 million a year. He's still got about, I think it was like $38 million guaranteed. You got Dexter Lawrence, where the contract does not kick until next year with an increased salary cap for not much more money. I mean, you're talking $7.5 million more per year and about, $22 million more guaranteed. Love this deal. This is why you keep in-house talent. Giants did a great job there with that draft pick, as Dexter Lawrence continues to be one of the faces of this franchise long-term. Love the move. Dexy, sexy Dexy will be doing his sack dance for at least another 5 years in New York Giants blue. Next up will be Andrew Thomas next year, and probably Saquon Barkley this year. And I think that deal is going to get done sooner than later. Seems like the New York Giants and Barkley are at least talking. We'll see how stubborn his side is. We'll see how stubborn Joe Schoen is. Hopefully they could come to an agreement in the middle. You want a healthy locker room going into the 2023 season. But, obviously you don't want them to go above and beyond for Barkley. You don't want them to give him a $50 million guaranteed. I don't expect that, but that remains to be seen. I don't expect Saquon Barkley to be playing on the tag. And now we know Dexter Lawrence will be very happy in New York Giants blue, and we could stop all this bogus talk about how the players aren't happy because they paid Daniel Jones. I think Dexter Lawrence is just fine getting $22.5 million a year and $60 million guaranteed over the next 4 years. As always, if you like what you watch, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.